my emotions is always solution based. I'm looking at how can we be better? How can I be better for my guys? Um, there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways, and I'm taking the approach that I have to do those things and be active and making the right choices and doing all the right things. So getting with the guys and figuring out how can I be better for them? How can I help them more in games? How can I help them more in the huddle? Again, this is a process, man. Like, I've seen this so many times. I remember when Jared Goff, it doesn't matter, but I remember when he went to the Lions and that whole process, man, this is a process. It's process-driven, and a lot of time people focus on the results. But you can have good results sometimes with a bad process, and it'll catch up to you. And so we got to tighten down our process, and then the results that we want, they'll be there. But it's a process-driven game, and you got to focus on the process.
And that was Gino Smith, the Raiders quarterback, after the Raiders' fourth straight loss of the season, their second blowout loss in 3 weeks, both road games. Another 2 interceptions for Gino Smith. He now has a league-high 9 on the season. It's going from bad to worse for the Raiders. We're going to get into it. We are here live at Lucas Oil Stadium. Adam Hill and I. This is Vegas Nation. 1st and 10, brought to you by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports. Adam, this was going to be a tough game regardless. Obviously, the Raiders also came into it underhanded without Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, Eric Stokes, Jermaine Pratt, Colton Miller. Am I missing anybody? I think that pretty much sums it up. So it was going to be a tough game regardless, but it's one thing to lose with honor. It's another thing to get, just your hats handed to you in sort of an embarrassing fashion. Shellacked, yes, exactly. And that's exactly what happened to the Raiders today. It was in all facets. Again, special teams had a major breakdown. On a block punt, you had an almost 90-yard kickoff return that was called back only because of holding penalty that was all the way across the field.
Could have been worse.
Could have been a lot worse. 2 more interceptions by Geno Smith, as we mentioned. Just a bad day at the office again for the Raiders. Where do they go from here?
Great question. Oddly enough, as bad as it was everywhere, I think you start with special teams because it's been a problem consistently. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have one of the best kickers in the league, one of the best punters in the league, but it's about more than that. It's about coverage teams and blocking and everything else. Yeah. And it just hasn't been good, and it's been time and time again. And against the Commanders, it was kind of surprising. Everybody said, "Oh, Raiders are usually pretty solid on special teams. What happened?"
It's a one-off.
But it's over and over again exactly. Now. And today, your blocking breakdown not only cost you a block punt and a touchdown, potentially cost you your punter, your all-pro punter, who, let's just say, did not look good in the locker room. Talked to him a little bit, very in a lot of pain, and I saw the ankle. It was
ugly,
horrible looking. So we'll see. The MRI not done obviously yet, and they'll wait till they get home and probably test it tomorrow. Usually do those things Monday morning, but. He got hurt because the blocking broke down, and the defender got there just as he was punting the ball. So not only do you have that breakdown, and not only do you cost your team points, but you also end up potentially losing A.J. Cole. So I think it starts there, and they've got to fix that. Does that mean making a change in the special teams, hierarchy? And do you move on from Tom McMahon? I don't know how they work this out.
Right.
But I think you've got to clean that up. You can't. You're not a good enough team. You're not even close to being a good enough team to overcome special teams breakdowns every single week.
No, not at all.
That has to be fixed first. And I know that's not the splashy, exciting answer. I know everybody wants to say, "Oh, change the quarterback and do this and do this." You've got to get that stuff cleaned up before you can really do anything else. And then just, it's back to basics, I guess, the fundamentals, those sorts of things. Ashton Genty today said, you got to convert on third downs. You have to score in the red zone. He said we might be the worst red zone team I think he said ever. But I was looking up, they're actually 22nd.
No, they were. Yeah, it's not as bad as
not as bad as maybe
because they just don't get to the red zone enough.
But they just got to do it. And he said you got to convert on third down. Well, they actually were 8 of 14. The problem is you're allowing 80% on the other side for the Colts. So. You've got to get the third down defense cleaned up for sure. You've got to stop turning the ball over, obviously.
See, now we're on to 5 things, I think.
There's so many things that they have to do. But, clean up the special teams to me would be first because you've got to be sound. like in those aspects of the game, especially when you're not good enough other areas. Like if you want to be competitive and be in games, you got to get that cleaned up. Think about it last week. If they have the protection cleaned up on a field goal, they're 2-3 right now, not 1-4.
Yeah, that's very, very astute, very, very true. Now going back to the defense, we'll get to Gino and his interceptions. But at one point, I think it was just in the first half. Now that I think about it, the Colts were 7 of 8 on third downs.
Yeah.
No surprise that because of that, they scored on. It ended up at one point it was 8 of 9 into the third quarter, and at that point the Colts had scored on 6 of their first 7 drives. The only time they didn't score of those 9 of those. What did I say? 6 of their first 7.
It was 6 in a row.
It was 6 in a row after a 3-and-out to start the game, and everything looked great at that point. But it was all downhill.
Raiders had a 3-and-out, and then had one of their best drives,
Which
in weeks, which ended up being stopped in the red zone because of a sack that took place. But 3-and-out, and then you get a great drive going on the other way. Like you start off well, and then everything just comes tumbling down.
Yeah, exactly. And the most egregious on that drive where they gave up I think it was the Colts go back to their 23-yard line after a holding call, I think it was, and it eventually worked its way into a 3rd and 12 at the 23. You're thinking, okay, if you're the Raiders, you get them off the field right here, hold them to a field goal. It's 3-3 at that point. Because the Raiders couldn't score a touchdown on their drive, they had to settle for a field goal. So it's 3-0. Even if you hold them to a field goal, hey, it's back to 0-0. Instead, they give up the third down with 3rd and 12, and that leads to a touchdown.
Josh Downs with like 5 spin moves, I think.
Right.
Was that play? I think it was.
It was actually
very impressive play. But
yeah,
you got to make a tackle.
You got it. Yeah.
It's again, it's some of the basic things, some of the fundamental things that they've got to just clean up and get right. And when you don't, those are the kind of things that happen. And one thing led to another. The multiple players in the locker room, which by the way, very, very sullen locker room, I would say.
Yes.
A couple of guys that I talked to just said like one thing just leads to another, and they stack up on each other, and then you can't stop it.
Right.
And that's kind of what we saw happen today for sure. And it was, it's tough to describe how bad they looked today. Mm-hmm. Like it just being here in the stadium, just all aspects. And again, such a good start, but after that, it was offense, defense, special teams. Like none of it was really working. And again, somehow the 8 of 14 on third down isn't terrible, but I mean, a lot of that I think is late in the game too. They converted a couple. It just wasn't good.
Well, it was interesting, and we're going to hear from Pete Carroll in just one second about how he's processing all this. Because remember, Pete Carroll came into this season, and he fully admitted even today they were going to win games. They're going to win right out of the chute. I win 10 games every year, basically, have done for the last 20 some odd years. He did not expect this, and so we'll hear from that. We'll hear from him in just a second. But one thing that he said is, if you look at all the statistics outside of the 8 of whatever it was, the third down conversions and the block punt, which led to a touchdown, and the interception, which led to a touchdown. If you just look at all the statistics outside of those 2 plays, basically, it's a very even game, and yet. You look up at the scoreboard, and it's 40-6. It just shows you, again, what Adam was saying. You're not good enough as a team to throw interceptions in those situations. You're not good enough to get a block punt that sets it up, the 8-yard line, I think it was, all the way from there. That play started, I think, at the 33-yard line, and so it gets run back to the 8-yard line. You're just not good enough to give up kickoff returns for touchdowns, even though that one got called back. You're just not good enough. And at what point? At some point, you could say, "Well, the coaches aren't getting them prepared." Okay. At what point do you also say this team's just not good enough? They're not talented enough. They're not talented enough to do anything more than what we thought about coming into the season. Potentially, if everything goes right, win 9 games. But clearly that's not happening, and as a result, because that talent was if everything went right. Nothing's going right now, and now you've lost 4 straight games.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk grand scheme and big picture of where it is, as we talked about going into the season, I know a lot of our viewers didn't like it. Like 1-4 is actually better. You know, it's on the way to being 4-13, not 8-9, which I think 4-13 is better than 8-9.
Yeah.
You might say the math doesn't add up. It does, because you need draft picks. Like you need to acquire more talent. You need to get better. You need to build the lines for sure on both sides of the ball. So.
And how do you do that?
Yeah, you get
draft
draft pick.
But you got to make, obviously, you have to execute.
By the way, need a quarterback, no question. So, and a quarterback of the future. I'm saying I'm not saying it's all on Gino.
No.
They need a quarterback of the future. So, I mean, to me, yes, 4-13 would be better than 8-9, and this looks like more of a 4-13 team than it does an 8-9 team. So I guess if you want to look at quote silver lining, I guess it would be.
By the way, in terms of the quarterback of the future, the Raiders general manager John Spytek and a bunch of his lieutenants, where were they yesterday on Saturday? Well, right up the road, a couple hours away in South Bend, Indiana, watching a loaded Notre Dame team that beat Boise State, but in particular. There's a quarterback on Notre Dame. He's a freshman, a redshirt freshman, playing in his, I think it was his fifth game yesterday of his career, and has been lighting it up and is quickly emerging as somebody that will be a top 5 pick potentially if he keeps this up after next year's draft, not this year.
I want to start looking at juniors.
What's that?
I want to start looking at juniors and seniors who actually can come out this year.
Yeah, but the problem is I don't know that there is a quarterback in this draft. Now, somebody might emerge. It's still relatively early in the season, but I don't know that this is the year that you draft. Like, it would be great if there was a great quarterback coming out. I don't know if there is one. So, maybe in 2 years, this is when Gino Smith, when you can walk away actually from Gino Smith, and it would kind of make sense timing wise. But larger point, to Adam's point, yes, you have to find a quarterback. You have to find a quarterback of the future, and you have to start accruing or acquiring high-end talent. And right now, I look at this Raiders roster, and while if things went fabulously right, maybe they win 9 games, what are the chances of that happening? And then thus far, it's happened one time in 5 games that things went right.
Yeah, again, you can say things here. I mean, it could have been 2-3 and not 1-4. Things look different because next week they're a big favorite next week. As bad as it feels right now, probably for fans, like they are a big favorite next week. They should win that game. And then it goes to, you're 2-4, feeling a little bit better about yourself. Just like it starts rolling downhill and it's going poorly.
As
maybe
you say that, the
Titans have a chance here.
The Titans have the ball at the 10-yard line, at the now 3-yard line, 4-yard line, trailing 21-19 to the Arizona Cardinals. So that game has turned on a dime. There's 19 seconds left, and they're at the 3. So. Who knows?
They kick the field goal to win? It's 21-19?
It's 21-19 with 10 seconds left, yes.
Oh, there you go.
So that looks like it's getting ready to
By the way, Cardinals earlier in the game, Amari DiMarcado dropped the ball at the goal line.
It happens every week,
Didn't score, and that looks like it could come back to haunt.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to hear from Pete Carroll what he said about how he's hanging in there right now and processing, in which, as he said, not very well. But before we do, we just want to say that, hey, you guys spoke up and we heard you loud and clear. You wanted VegasNation.com coverage of the Raiders at a discounted price, and we are delivering. The next 3 months of a digital subscription to Vegas Nation can be had for 25 cents. The next 3 months, not 25 cents per month, 25 cents for the entire 3 months. Just go to mylvrj.com/nation. That's mylvrj.com/nation and get the next 3 months of a digital subscription to Vegas Nation, which will take you through the end of the season for 1 quarter. That's our thank you to you. Here we're going to hear from Pete Carroll, and we'll be back to discuss more of what happened or didn't happen today in Indianapolis.
I'm processing it poorly. I'll tell you the truth, because I did expect to win right out of the chutes, but what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling is I know by the way we're working, because I've watched a lot of teams work and develop your system, your belief in it, and knowing who you can count on and who you can trust and all of that. That that is ongoing, and it feels like we're going in a good direction in that sense. It just didn't. It's not showing up here. Don't forget last week we had the winning drive. We go down the field, kick field goal, win the game. Okay, that was last week. It was 1 point. It feels like a million miles away from that. But that was that week. And then this week is a whole different situation. And this was the result was very similar to the Commanders game. So. Hoping we go back home, we play right again, and we get a game going and get moving. It's going to start sometime, and then I'm just kind of waiting for that moment where we kick it in, we have the answers, we make the right choices, we make the right plays, the right calls. It's on us, all of us. It's not on the players. It's on all of us to get that right. Myself totally included in all of that, and then we go, and that's how I've always seen it. And I thought it would be last week at home. I thought that we'd go on the road and we're going to get it done this week. And I'm going to keep thinking that way. I told them I'm going to keep believing, and I hope that you guys will do the same thing until we get this thing right.
Pete Carroll, always trying to keep it as positive as he possibly can. I know this is killing him right now, but you go through Pete's history. He's been here before. He started out 1-4 at USC before they turned the corner. That year, actually, they ended up winning 5 straight games. I don't expect that to be the case this year, but he knows, the core ingredients and the work ethic that you need to see, as a starting point, to eventually get things turned around. But as Adam and I have been talking about, what they need is a lot more talent on this football team. He was also 7-9 his first 2 years. With the Seattle Seahawks. That first year at 7-9, they actually made the playoffs because they were in a bad division, and they ended up winning a playoff game that year. So it's not always been this massively quick turnaround, and all of a sudden you're winning national championships at USC or winning Super Bowls in Seattle or going in the playoffs. It actually took a couple years for all that to start happening, and I think maybe reality is setting in a little bit for him right now.
Yeah, and I mean the difference is he doesn't really have time. I mean, he's not.
Yeah.
It's not. This is not like a 20-year project. Like
right.
Seattle's 15, whatever it was. So, I don't think anybody expects him to have this job for 15 years. Mm-hmm. It seems like more of they wanted to speed up the timeline. We talked about a lot of the changes they made this offseason was about speeding things up, about getting there quickly, and thinking that you could win right away. And part of that is just realistically, that's the timeline that he's on now, and. You can't take shortcuts in this business. No. You just can't.
There's no magic wands.
It felt like that's kind of what the Raiders were trying to do this offseason, which is, why I criticized a lot of the moves that they made, but they wanted to try to win. And look, they've got good players. And again, it's not over.
No.
Things are just going very, very differently than what Pete Carroll expected and what he anticipated and what he believed that they were. And he said, as he watches this team, he still sees those things. He still sees
Tennessee kicked the field goal, by the way.
There you go. He still sees he sees the foundation of something that could be good. It just has not shown.
And look, if he, at this point, we'll see what happens he's got basically a 3-year contract. We'll see where it is in 3 years. And if he takes this to a good place, hands it off to somebody, then his job here will have been, hands it off to somebody and they take it from there.
Yeah.
His job will have been, his time here will have been well spent. Keep this in mind too. The Raiders only have, I think, 31 players under contract next year as of right now, and they've got $106 million under the salary cap. So, and all those players outside of, Max Crosby's on a multi-year deal, Colton Miller's on a multi-year deal, A.J. Cole is on a multi-year deal. I think Jeremy Chin has a 2-year deal. There's a couple others that are on 2-year deals, minimally, not being paid a whole lot of money. It's mostly these young players that they have, that are coming back, I should say, rookies, draft picks, guys like that they're right now kind of trying to decide, who's going to be part of the journey, who can they count on, and another point also, and this was from Gino Smith, as he mentioned, they do have a lot of young players out there today. Today in particular, because Brock Bowers wasn't out there, Michael Mayer wasn't out there. So young wide receivers like Dante Thornton and Jack Besh, and I think we saw again today Dante Thornton, the learning curve that he faces. There was an interception that rightfully should have been on Dante, basically, but that's how the rules are.
Yeah,
it's
not
going to
how
be on the
stats
quarterback.
work.
Yeah, it's not how statistics work. But when you look back at that interception, it's on Gino's ledger, but it's really the wide receiver, a young wide receiver, just not executing the way you have to in the NFL because little mistakes like that, by not sitting where he needed to sit in against a zone coverage on an option route, that's a play that a veteran wide receiver should make, and the interception probably doesn't happen if he does.
Yeah, it's I'll say small details is a pretty big detail, but it's the details of running every single route the best you possibly can and exactly how it needs to be done, and that's why it has to be done that way, because instead of coming back, sitting and then coming back to the ball, Dante Thornton just kind of drifted back, and now a guy steps in front. Like if you're coming back to that ball, you either catch it or you're there to make sure that it's not intercepted. But instead, the defensive back is able to step in front of it, get the interception. And again, it's on. Look, Gino Smith wouldn't say it's on him. He said, "Hey, I threw it, so it's on me." But it was Dante Thornton's fault. Like that play was Dante Thornton's fault. And again, Gino probably shouldn't throw that ball right there because he wasn't ready, but or he wasn't in the right place. But at the same time, you expect the receiver to be somewhere he's not, and that's sometimes what happens with the young players. I would prefer the young players are in there learning these things and getting those lessons. And I think it is time for some of the young players that aren't ready. We've heard Pete Carroll say, "Hey, they're just not ready." Oh well. Like I think it's time to get some of those guys out there. I mean, whether it's just getting them experience, or whether it's like, hey, maybe they breathe some new energy into things.
Exactly. And as Gino said, hey, that's just he goes, it's not his fault, it's not anyone's fault, it's life.
Yeah.
It's life. It's a young wide receiver still learning how to play in the NFL, at the NFL level, and you just have to live with those ups and downs. And I felt like he handled that pretty good by saying, it's kind of the situation that you're in, and you hope, as Gino said, you hope in 5-6 games those mistakes aren't happening, and you're playing at a higher level. Everybody, including the rookies. Nevertheless, 4 straight losses. They're 1-4 in a tough division. Although it looks like the Chargers lost again today to the Washington Commanders. Kind of a decisive win with Jaden Daniels returning for the Commanders. So, but then the Denver Broncos go to Philadelphia and win against the Eagles. So I have a feeling. I mean, look. The Raiders probably destined for last place in their division when you start looking at who they're dealing with. And as Gino said, that's life. That's where the Raiders are right now, and they're going to have to kind of come to grips with that. I think Adam makes a good point. Play the young guys, get those guys developed, and don't give up, but also just don't give in to wanting to try to rush this thing. It's going to take time, and that's the reality that they face. That's going to do it from Indianapolis. Another disappointing day for the Raiders. We'll be back on Wednesday as the Raiders get prepared for what we thought was a winnable game against the Tennessee Titans. That's all of a sudden the Titans are coming in on a 1-game winning streak. So after beating the Phoenix Cardinals or the Arizona Cardinals today, I want to say thanks to the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Station Casinos STN Sports. I want to say thank you to Heidi Fang, our producer, who always does a great job. Thank you to Adam Hill.
Sure, there's one other tidbit. I don't know how many people are interested. I know some people were tweeting about it, but the plan, if AJ Cole could not have held, was Kenny Pickett to hold. Okay. In that situation, he's done it before. AJ, for the
who was going to punt?
Watching the game. Well, Daniel punted.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, Daniel punted in the game. So, and just you can read about it in Vegas Nation by getting that subscription. 3 months, 25 cents, great deal. You guys asked for it, you got it. But Daniel punted in college. He didn't punt in high school. He was stunned to win the starting punting job in his freshman year at college. Punted pretty well, but then they had him focused on kicking the rest of the way. So he hasn't really kicked regularly since 2014. He does periodically try some punts in practice just to be sharp and ready to go. And he said, very coincidentally, he had actually punted a little bit this week.
There you go.
In practice. But the biggest thing really is catching the ball. And you might think that's silly, but like, if you never catch a ball and you're standing in front, 65,000 people watching you try to catch a ball from a snapper, it is a little bit different. He's like, I like to think of myself as an athlete, but it is a little trickier than you think.
A very odd day today because on the Colts side, you had a punter that was almost having to kick because their kicker went out. Yeah. So as opposed to the punter or to the kicker having to punt for the Raiders. So it was just one of those really in a really odd, crazy year for special teams. Yeah. That about sums it up.
We saw 2 different times today where a player committed 2 penalties on the same play, which you never see happen. Happened twice in the same game.
Happened twice in the same game. So crazy things happening here in Indianapolis. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend as it is, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.